So, hello and welcome to the New Gig podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Hodgson, and today I'm delighted to be joined by global journalist, writer, and moderator, Charlotte Kahn. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Glenn. Very happy to be with you today and to be discussing a topic that's very close to my heart.
Fantastic. So, let's begin by just doing a little bit of a rewind and you talking us through your career, your journey, but also what you're doing today and the activities you're involved in.
So, we're going to start with what I'm doing today. So, I'm a conversation architect, which means that I travel the world to facilitate high level conversations on stage on various topics linked often to finance, to sustainability, technology, disruption, all sorts of development issues, geopolitics, women empowerment, etc. And what I'm trying to do is to create the right emotional and intellectual space so ideas can flow and people can connect. They can connect with the room, they can connect ideas, and they can also connect with themselves. That's an important point.
Yeah.
In other terms, I'm a master of ceremonies and a moderator who pours all her heart into what she does. But this connection is very important to me because people will remember feelings more than they will remember facts and data. So it's important during an event or during a dialogue or a conference, a forum, etc., that people have those emotional takeaways, feel that energy in order to enhance impact, in order for them to really want to take action afterwards. So that's for what I'm doing now. And
Yeah.
that's the result of a long and at times fairly treacherous journey. So I was born, I'm going to give you the full life story now, I was small in a
Please,
small
please.
village, in a small village on the peninsula in Brittany. And that's just to convey the idea that I grew up in a fairly isolated place. Parents were very absent. They were working on
Mm.
their own meritocracy journey, I guess. And therefore, there wasn't much to do. And my salvation, I guess, came from the local library. So I loved reading. I was reading a lot as a child. And my favorite activities were talking, writing, reading. And that's become my craft and my passion. I'm a wordsmith more than anything else, I guess. I love words.
Yeah.
And I guess from a very young age, I always wanted to do something with that. So either become a writer or help tell the world, tell stories. And journalism, of course, is one way to do it. So I
Mm.
wanted to become a journalist from the age of 10. That's what I always wanted to do, or a writer, like I mentioned. Um, and that's cool. I was quite a gifted student in languages and French, my first language.
Yeah.
Um, I loved literature. I won writing competitions, which meant a lot to me because I was not growing up in a community where people were necessarily very educated.
Yeah.
It's certainly not a bourgeois environment, not very well connected, small village, etc. But literature, words, writing, talking became a form of empowerment.
Mm.
So that's what I studied. I studied French classics and English and American language and civilization at university. And after that, I decided to travel because I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to explore the world. And I had the opportunity to come to London as part of my studies. And I loved it. And I
Yeah.
stayed. Of course, I met a lovely British man who's now my husband and the father of my sweet children. And after that, I decided to pursue my studies even further, and I did a master's in international journalism. But there I was, a young French woman, not necessarily very well connected in London. I had to finance my own studies, and of course, I needed a job as soon as possible.
Mm.
And it was very difficult because I couldn't really see how I was going to add value to the job market in London. And that was back in 2003. But then
Yeah.
I saw this ad in The Guardian, and that was one of those, watershed moments, really. And the ad said, wanted bilingual stock market reporter. And it was for a large American company, Standard and Poor's at the time. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know what? I'm bilingual enough. I know nothing about the stock market, but you know what? Let's try anyway. And I was very lucky because I went to the interview and the recruiter, the boss, was actually bilingual himself. He was French and British. And he looked at my CV, and that's what he said to me. Look, you clearly know nothing about finance. And I didn't. I didn't lie at all. I couldn't make it up. I literally had to ask my husband and his friends who worked in the city at the time what a stock was, what a share was. I had no idea. He said, look, you've got a very unusual CV. You've written your master's thesis about the history of metaphysical science fiction. You're a woman. That's all very quirky. You get the job. I got the job, and I had to learn everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It was tough, but I learned so much. And I remember in the very first few months I started, I was literally dreaming of upgrades and downgrades by Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley and share prices, etc. But it was also very exciting because at the time there was a lot of energy in the city, and also London was the place to be. Everyone wanted to come to London and work for a financial institution, and not just because of the money, but because it was an environment full of very ambitious people. And it was also an environment where it was a very meritocratic environment in the sense that people did not necessarily have to be very educated or very well connected. They could come from all over the world, from very different backgrounds, and still make something great. And so there was a great atmosphere. I learned so much. And from then on, I went on to work for another wire. And then I ended up at Bloomberg Television. I had applied for it, and the whole process took a while, almost a year. It's a very thorough process. And I was meant to join as a producer. And of course, 2 weeks later, I was on air. And that's how it started, a career in television. So I was a news anchor on the French channel. And then I moved on to the British one because the financial crisis happened
Right.
at the time, back in 2007 and 8. And there was a big restructuring. Bloomberg closed down all the European channels at the time, and I ended up working for the British one. But I was pregnant with my second child. I had to get up very early, 3 a.m. every morning to either report or produce shows, etc. And it became very difficult. So
Yeah.
I left. And that's how the journey of freelancing started. And it was the most difficult, the most complicated, and the best professional decision I ever made in my life. Okay, and just because I'm going on a little bit, I'm very much aware of it. So in a nutshell,
It's fascinating. I love it.
I started to have a really deep think about what I wanted to do. I'm a free spirit. I've always been a free spirit. Even though I love Bloomberg, I learned so much there. It was fantastic. I never really wanted to be institutionalized, as I call it. Okay, to do things my own way. And so I knew at the time, and it was the worst possible time in my life to do it because I left a job that was very high status, very well paid. My dream job, really, to start all over again from scratch, and with no pay package, with no savings, with 2 small children, with a mortgage in London, etc. I had nothing. It was a very uncomfortable position to be in. But in a way, it was the best position to be in because failure was not an option.
Yes.
So I started to think about my skills, what I could do. And of course, my skills were writing, communication, presenting, etc. So I started to do a mix of all that. And I did copywriting. I wrote countless white papers on digital transformation on behalf of lots of different companies because at the time, a new type of marketing content was appearing. It was paid content, sponsored content, written by journalists rather than marketing teams. Why? Because journalists are great storytellers, and things started to shift. The digital economy and the power was very much with the consumer.
Right.
The consumer didn't be at the receiving end of things, but to be more active, basically, in the whole sort of transactional commercial process. So I did a lot of brand content. I was also at the time reporting for various European news channels. Also media training, public speaking, etc. And from then on, I started to be asked to moderate, and I guess people liked it. And increasingly, I started to be asked to do it. And I was also a reporter for Euronews at one point, and I traveled the world with them. It was fantastic. That was actually before and during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then I started to focus almost solely on moderating and emceeing conferences. So you can see that it was a very diverse, I'd say, journey. But what really empowered me is technology at the time. The digital economy really taking off, which meant that I could be a digital nomad. I could work from home and look after my children.
Right.
And I could also, through social media platforms, enhance my visibility and promote myself. So that gave me lots of opportunities. So, in a nutshell, that's my life journey.
Well, fantastic, and it's great to hear that, and thank you for taking us through the various steps. And I think it's just sort of fantastic, and with this kind of snapshot, just makes you realize that by trying several different things, it opens doors, it opens windows, it allows you to take the next step and move on and try new things, and then you can specialize after that. But having this kind of like portfolio career and finding out what you're good at, and also deciding what you want to do and mixing it in, I think is fantastic. Because one of the things that we sort of, I think, really comes out from your story here is the fact that freelancing is more than a job; it's a lifestyle and a work style, and facilitated by technology. So it'd be great to be able to get into that a little bit more about how you utilize technology to join the dots and empower you to be able to do all these fantastic things that you do on a daily basis.
So you are absolutely right, Glenn. Freelancing is a work style, it's a lifestyle, but I would say it's also a psychological profile.
Right.
So I'm an evangelist when it comes to freelancing and self-employment, but I'm not trying to convert everyone.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not for everyone.
Mm.
It's for people who are very risk oriented, people who are extremely resilient, very disciplined, and who have this very strong sense of responsibility. And
Right.
you heard it previously because you heard my sort of professional life journey. I'm self-made, so I'm the right
Yes.
type for it because I had nothing to lose. And also because I've always had this very strong sense of agency. I've always been very driven, I guess. And you need that. It's very important. But you also need to have the ability to find yourself or to even seek very uncomfortable positions in life. Like
Right.
I mentioned, I left a high paid job for nothing. Not everyone can do that.
Yes.
Okay. Not everyone can deal with uncertainty and the possibility of failure, because I'm talking about my journey as if it was very smooth and I love what I do. I'm literally living my best life, but it's
Yeah.
been a journey and it's been very difficult at times. And you are right, technology was absolutely a tool for empowerment for me. I mentioned earlier that with the digital economy, as long as I had access to Wi-Fi, I was able to work from absolutely anywhere. And
Yeah.
I remember spending many holidays abroad where I was working from rented accommodation, a villa, whatever, and I could see my kids and my husband playing, in the distance. Why working? Because I spent many summers working whilst
Right.
everyone was having fun. Let's face it. Um, so Wi-Fi, digital economy, the platform, the platformization of the economy was
Right.
very, very empowering. And I saw it coming very early on, I must admit. I remember having a conversation at a conference, and at the time, I think it was with the president, maybe the managing director of the International Labour Organization. And I said to him, I've been freelance for about 5 years now, and I can tell you that it's the future. We're going to have giant platforms where all sorts of people are going to be pitching their skills and find work. I think that, but now I realize it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. It's
Yeah.
more complicated than that. But certainly, with the further digitalization of the economy, with the working from home habit we've taken on since COVID, I can see freelance work and self-employment developing very, very fast. And another aspect of technology, and I touched upon it earlier, is social media.
Yeah.
When you work for yourself, you are the CEO of a company where the main product is you. So you have to market the product. You've got to sell the product. You've got to showcase the product.
Right.
So you need that visibility. It's very important. And the moment I started to harness platforms like LinkedIn, for instance, to talk about my work, what I wanted to do, and to be very intentionally presenting myself a certain way so people could see how I could be helpful to them,
Right.
that's when work really started to come through. And I didn't have to pitch so hard or hustle so much for work to come to me. And that's very important. The fact that without visibility in today's marketplace, it's very, very difficult for people to know you exist and therefore to use your services. So I can't really see how, except in very particular sectors, but how with that visibility, you could have a very successful freelance career.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you like it or not, you have to sort of create a brand and sort of lean into that, whether it's natural or not. You basically need to sort of be able to market yourself and think about the brand that you want to create there.
Absolutely. I think personal branding is essential to what I do in particular. I'm on stage, of course, but even
Yes.
if you are a photographer, let's say, or if you're a consultant, it's also important for people to understand, what you stand for,
Yeah.
why you may be helpful to them and what you do. And at a glance, because also what's happening with this, sort of hybrid economy and this increasingly um, well, digital online led economy is the fact
Yeah.
that our attention is short. Okay, so we
Yes.
live in this attention economy. It's difficult for people to grab others' attention, so you have to be very powerful, very impactful when you do so. It's super important, and I'd say that's something I have been working on for a very long time, because I didn't mention that another aspect of freelancing is finding yourself. It's a kind of
Okay.
personal quest
Yeah.
well, you've got to understand what you want out of this life and how to design it. And that means you also have to have a very deep and hard look at your real skills and how you can add value and what you can or cannot do. You have to be very realistic as well. I tried different things and I was not good at everything. But then
Right.
eventually you find that thing you're very good at that can really add value to other people.
Yeah.
And in personal branding, that has to come across at all times.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the ability for people to actually, put yourself almost in their shoes and say, well, Charlotte, I actually know what she's doing because I can see sort of the blue chip names that she's worked for, the events that she's been involved with, but also the ability to actually show sort of snippets, almost like the reels, the reels mentality of this is the kind of thing that she could do, and I can almost put her in the place of the event or the activity that I'm organizing because I see how she fits in. You make it easy for people to buy your services.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's very important to be intentional.
Yeah,
Also, because like I mentioned, it's always been very important for me to have the feeling that I live a life that I have owned, that I'm not passive, that I'm very active, that I have designed this life, which means
yeah,
that I'm not going to accept any project. In
right.
the past, I did, okay, but not anymore.
Hmm.
I'm in that stage of my professional and personal life. I'm not going to do anything and everything. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
So I would say I'm also positioning myself so it benefits me.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, what's driving me is my own joy,
yeah,
is what I love doing. It's finding my passion. And if my passion can serve others, then fantastic. But that's the priority, Glenn. And I think it's very important to always come back to that. Because
yeah.
if you don't, then that's when you're going to start having a lack of alignment between who you are and what you do. And you wouldn't want that.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And lean into what you excel at and be able to. I think it's that passion and honesty and enjoying yourself every day and getting paid for it. I guess Charlotte is the kind of
Well,
thing.
I should have said at the very start, Glenn, that I stopped working 15 years ago. Seriously, and that's how it feels.
Yeah.
As corny as it sounds, I do not work anymore. This
Yes.
is not work. This is just discovery, exploration, curiosity, passion, drive, excellence. That's what it's all about. I mentioned it earlier. I have the feeling that I'm living my best life. And of
Yeah.
course, if that can inspire others and including my clients, then great.
Completely, completely. And I mean, this whole concept I think is really interesting. That idea of a company of one, with the branding, the finding the work, the doing the work, and I think increasingly as the sort of the labor market changes, whether you work in a large organization or you're a freelancer, you're going to have this mindset anywhere, thinking about how you actually sort of portray yourself, what are the things you want to do, what are the things you don't want to do, which is sometimes more importantly, and actually sort of creating the sort of the lifestyle and work style that you're looking for.
Absolutely. So I already mentioned certain aspects of the work you have to do when you work for yourself, but there are
Right.
so many more.
Yeah.
You have to do business development. You become an accountant,
You do. Yes.
tax specialist,
Yeah.
pension specialist,
Yeah.
insurance specialist.
Mm.
You have to be a digital marketing specialist, a social media expert. You
Yeah.
have to do all these things. You have
Mm.
to also, but I say, you know what? Even though I love and I take a lot of pride in the fact that, like I mentioned, I'm very much self-made. I'm also very self-reliant, etc. I could not have done this alone. I've
Right.
had around me a great support network. And first and foremost, I have to credit him for that, my husband, who's always been very supportive. Because being freelance is a roller coaster, okay? Sometimes it
Completely.
works,
Yeah.
doesn't, can be very, very difficult psychologically. So you need that shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
Okay. And someone who believes in you and is going to boost you at times when it becomes a little bit more difficult. Okay. So it's a very important part of your success. Okay. But also, I've had a coach, a personal development coach, who happened to be my former boss at Bloomberg, actually, and has at some point reconverted into coaching people, which she's done very, very well,
Yeah.
and certainly helped me a lot to understand my positioning, my personal brand, what I wanted to do to really shape and design that professional life that I wanted. I have an accountant, okay, but I still have to give her all the information she needs to put it all together. So
Yeah.
basically, when you start becoming a bit more successful and you have more financial, I'd say, freedom to surround yourself with the right experts, you then have to do that, okay,
Mm.
because then it really adds value as your own work and not spending too much time on marketing, on doing your tax return or etc. Okay, so that's very important. So you're not. It's a journey where you feel very much on your own and even alone and lonely at times,
Yes. Mm.
but you have to surround yourself very well. It's important.
I think that's the key thing about having sort of the team and the support network around you because, whether it's remote work or being an entrepreneur, it can get lonely at times. You're doing things and you're sort of relying on yourself, but you also need the people that sort of can give you that sort of safety net. And just it doesn't need to be too much. It can be the occasional boost, or when you're overloaded, you can sort of give an individual can actually help you out and support these things, but also be a bit of a sounding board for some of the ideas, thoughts, and initiatives that you're pushing through as well.
That's the hardest part, actually. You are absolutely right in saying that. You end up at times going around in circles a little bit.
Mm.
And you need to allocate sufficient time to meeting other people, being, having other people challenge your ideas or the direction you're taking. You need to allocate sufficient time to training as well. Normally, when you work for a corporate, they organize training sessions for you. So I'm thinking of the development and the adoption of AI, for instance.
Right.
When you have to do it on your own, it's not easy, and you need to really spend some time on that because otherwise you risk becoming a little bit irrelevant. That's very, very important indeed.
Yeah.
And yes, it feels very lonely at times. It
Mm.
does, because in between all my travels, and it's very sociable. There's a lot of hospitality. I meet lots of people.
Yeah.
It's very energizing. It's a lot of fun. But in between, I'm at home here in my office, and I have to prepare, of course, the events I'm going to MC or where I'm going to moderate. I also write a lot. That's what my freelance career has given me the time to dedicate myself to my, or indulge my other passion in
Right.
writing.
Yeah.
And that's quite a solitary activity, of course, but also because you don't have colleagues, you don't have a team, you're not working on a common project, and that can be a fairly isolating experience at times, actually, and I miss it. I must admit, those
Yeah.
Christmas drinks, that the, the gossiping in the kitchen while I was preparing a cup of tea, etc. I miss it absolutely. I miss
Yeah.
it a lot. I miss it a lot, actually. And funnily enough, this year I've missed it more than in previous years.
Really.
Yes, oh
Hmm.
yes. also possibly because this year, it's a funny one, isn't it, Glenn, this year, what with geopolitics and the impact of AI, and we're still in this
Completely.
post-COVID recovery, and we don't know what's, there's this lack of certainty, I guess. So everyone is on tender hooks almost.
Completely. And you've mentioned the dreaded or beloved word AI in there as well. And I'm interested in sort of how you're utilizing AI, but also some of the other tools and services that are helping you do your job and be more efficient.
So AI is a very empowering tool for me. I have my personal AI assistant, Fireflies. Fireflies records all my conversations, gives me access to the full audio file and
Yeah,
also the full transcript. It gives me a summary of all the conversations I've had online to prepare events or even just exploratory conversations, etc. And I can sync it to my calendar, so it gives me steps, action steps to take, etc. So it's
right.
very, very helpful. And in good old fashioned journalism, where when you interviewed someone, you had to do the transcript by hand.
Yes.
And that would take hours and hours and hours. It was a very labor intensive process.
Yeah.
And now not anymore. Not only that, but AI can help me. I can then use all this material, this content, and use either Claude or ChatGPT. I have so many subscriptions to different AI platforms because it's important to have that variety.
Yeah.
And it will give me ideas in terms of the narratives I want to create for the conversations I'm going to moderate, etc. But the problem is you can go down a rabbit hole a little bit, especially when you're very creative, because it gives you so many different options, etc. But for me, AI is also a way to challenge my own creativity, especially when it comes to my writing, and I like it very, very much. I
Yeah.
use AI on a constant basis, and it's made a big difference to my life. I have saved hours of preparation time through this transcription capacity I've mentioned,
Yeah.
by helping me present my ideas for a discussion a little bit better. It's immensely helpful. I mean, I would say it's probably saved me 40 to 50%, nearly half the time I used to spend on preparing panels, which means
Fantastic.
I have a lot more free time to do other things that I love, like writing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think this is a case in point of, you use the technology and the tools. If not, they use you. But I think this is a ways of actually putting them to use and increasing what your output, but also the time efficiency that you can involve here as well, Charlotte.
Absolutely. And someone said something interesting to me, still on the topic of AI and digital tools. Someone said
Yeah,
to me at a conference a couple of years ago, they could replace you with an avatar,
yeah,
an AI trained avatar, where they will have fed all the conferences and the conversations I have moderated to the avatar, etc. No way, never. That's
never.
completely missing the point. Because
Yes,
one of my greatest assets is my personality, and
yeah,
it's my energy, and it's my sense of presence, which is very important. It's how you connect with people on a human level. That's irreplaceable. And in fact, there's more and more space and room for that. And
yeah.
I think what's fantastic about AI is the fact it's really going to force us, to challenge us, to question our own humanity and how we add value as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that take away the jobs that are either dirty, depressing, or boring, and we can focus on the other stuff, like you've said there. That the grunt work we can take out of it, and focus on where we can add more value and where it really matters. And I think this is fantastic. Before we wrap this up, I'd like to get sort of a few of your hints and tips on people for the future. Technology, exponential growth. How do we future proof ourselves based on the sort of your previous points there? How do we future proof ourselves and do well what machines can't, so we're still relevant and can add value today and into the future?
So I'm going to say something that may sound and feel a little bit contrarian here.
Okay,
Don't start with that. Start with your joy and write it down
excellent.
in a bubble. Do a little bit of mind mapping. Joy.
Mm,
What gives you joy in life? What puts you in that state of flow? What energizes you? What makes you feel strongly connected to this world?
Yeah.
And from then on, you can start thinking about your skills and how you can add value and how that can help you connect to that joy. That's
Yeah.
the starting point. And I think many people actually really miss the mark when it comes to that. That's where you have to start from in life, always. It's not always possible, but you have to start from what gives you that feeling of elation. This life is
Mm.
a gift. It's
Yeah.
not meant to be, and it can be at times. Of course, the luck factor is very important, but your professional life should be strongly connected to your personal life. In fact, that's what it should be. I mentioned earlier, work shouldn't be work. It should be
Yeah. It should be
you.
integrated. Yeah. Yeah.
It should be fully integrated. Absolutely. That's what it should be. It should be a whole universe.
Yeah.
Okay, to be a bit more pragmatic now, it's also important to do a skills audit from time to time. And not in relation to what you can do, but how you can add value, how you can be of service to others,
Yeah.
how you can help them solve today's problems. It's also important, Glenn, to understand the sort of zeitgeist, of the time,
Yeah.
of what people are missing. And I can tell you that in today's world, what people are missing is humanity, it's energy, it's it's desire almost.
Yeah.
It's in a world that's very flat and bland and very anxiety inducing. So maybe optimism
Yeah. Yeah. We
or
need that.
the willingness to connect to that joy there again, because that's it's not a word you read very often on LinkedIn, is it? Joy.
No. It,
And
it,
joy is
it
not happiness.
it's true.
It's a different thing. It's a very different thing. It's this feeling
Yeah.
of being fully connected. So add your, so think about the needs out there for your skills,
Yeah.
and then start thinking about how you can bridge it. Okay,
Yeah.
that joy, your skills, the needs of the world. So it's
Fantastic.
actually a psychological process,
Yeah. It's
and
absolutely
it's very
crucial.
accurate.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crucial. Start with the joy. That's my advice. We live in this fast changing world. You're on another note, I guess, you're going to have to be optimistic.
Yeah.
You're going to have to think that you can add value. You're going to have to want to add value. You're going to have to realize you're going to have to be challenging yourself constantly. I think the time of very linear careers is over.
Yeah.
And it's not even what youngsters or Gen Z or Alpha, this new generation are seeking. Absolutely not. Um, so you need to understand that your career would be probably a continuity of cycles.
Mm.
And that means that you are going to start something, it's going to peak, then you're going to fall off a cliff, or just a gentle, slippery slope, whatever. But you have to understand that cycles are very much part of life, and they will
Yeah.
be very much part of your professional life. So you have to be resilient. You have to have that faith, that trust in yourself, in the future, etc. It's going to be very important to be psychologically very resilient. And another key skill, a leadership skill for the future, is emotional regulation.
Yeah. I think
Not be
it's,
overwhelmed by uncertainty and change,
yeah.
and remain quite grounded.
Wow, absolutely fantastic advice there, Charlotte. And I really enjoy this. And you can come back. We want to have to discuss the physical and mental health part of this separately because I think it's a crucial issue. Thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, Glenn, thank you very much. Can I have a